Put your dukes up, because it's time for the Room and Board Deathmatch, a battle of all of your favorite board games to the death. You animals! You want to watch these poor board games burn? You want to watch these games suffer and descend into despair? Well, speaking of despair, this month's theme is Best Game to Lose At. That's true, we've assembled the best 31 games or 30 games to lose at all throughout the month of March. My glorious patrons, my objective and fair patrons, were voting on which game is going to be the biggest loser around. You've seen the Biggest Loser reality show. Well, now this one's going to be even better and bigger and filled with more losers. And I really like this as a concept. Games, for me, I've never experienced this since I win every single game that I play. But for others, you have to get used to losing, and you have to enjoy losing as well. And so I want you to make your predictions right now about which one of these games you think is going to be the best game to lose at. You're going to be wrong, because my Discord is filled with the biggest losers, but they love it. They love it. They love it being so. So you can at least get close, at least. But in all seriousness, I love this as a concept. Board games are supposed to be fun, right? I'm the type of player that plays to win, but even if I don't win, which again, has been established that it's never happened to me, but in a hypothetical scenario where I don't win, I still want to have enjoyed my time. It is fun to put ourselves to the test, but it is also fun to engage in the hobby and engage in a lot of games that bring forth a sense of fun, a sense of silliness, a sense of memorabilia. Memorability? Memorabilia! This is a hobby. This is fun. It is supposed to be fun, and that fun shouldn't be tied up in winning or losing. So all of you losers out there, make your predictions down below, and then tell me that you lost and tell me that you liked it. Ooh, baby. These are the games that we like when they step on our throats. These are the games that we don't mind if they push us around a little bit. These are the games that make all of us dumb losers feel like winners. So let's get into the matchup right now and we'll see what's going to happen. I'm going to do this differently. I'm not going to talk as long, I promise, about each game. You're just going to have to figure it out. Let's go. Oh no, that's for later. That's for later. I didn't plan that, I swear. First up, we have Terra taking on Night of the Ninja. I've played Night of the Ninja. I haven't played Terra. Terra is a cooperative game where you are exploring the deep, dark, dark deep before the lights flicker out and the gross creatures in the bottom of the earth catch up to you. It sounds like the Night Cage, but apparently it's fun. As you go through the game, you're going to face hazard cards, things are going to block your paths, and you need to work together to get out. Does that sound fun to lose? Well, cooperative games, I think, are a really good shout for this category. Because cooperative games, in their essence, should be challenging. Right? It should feel good to lose them because you're engaged in the act of playing, and the act of trying is important. I never like a cooperative game that I can just win every time. I would much prefer a cooperative game that's going to bend me over and spank me a little on occasion. And apparently, Terra does that. If you're looking for spankings in the dark, I know, okay, it's too much now. Also is Night of the Ninja. So Night of the Ninja is a social deduction game, but it is played in teams, but it's also played in rounds. And so what I really like about Night of the Ninja is that every round, you have a chance to win, you have a chance to lose, but you're not stuck with the same team throughout. It's always randomized. You always have that little mini game, and it's the first person to win 3 or 4 rounds. First person to get a certain number of points, and you're drawing these point tokens randomly out of the bag. So you might get 4 points, you might get 2 points. It's not that important. What matters is the act of playing this game. And what I really like about Night of the Ninja is that the rounds go by so quickly. And so if you get a bad break, or if you break, or if you don't have a good poker face, or whatever, you get killed. It's very quick, and then you start a new round with a completely different set of parameters and rules, and you do it again. It's really, really solid. A great addition to the social deduction genre, for sure. So naturally, because I've played Night of the Ninja and enjoyed it, it's Terra that moves forward in a 10-5 vote. I'm looking back now and it's 12-5, but when the vote was called, it was 10-5 as well. Sorry, Night of the Ninja, but this is a great one to lose at. I think this is wildly acceptable in the bracket, and it's so ridiculous that it got eliminated early on. So Terra must be pretty good. It must be fun to lose at. Next up, we have Beast taking on Blitz Bowl. Beast! Yes, that is the only fun that you can have when you're playing Beast. So Beast, I just played Beast recently, and I was really looking forward to it, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I played Beast the same day that I played Hollow Pact, because Studio Midhall is going to have a new game coming out that I'm going to be doing a playthrough later on in the month, and I quite enjoyed Hollow Pact a lot more than Beast. But Beast, one person will be the Beast, and the other people will be the Hunters. Doesn't quite work. Hey, Hunter. Hunty? Man, it's close. The Hunties. They'll be the Hunties. It's the Beast and the Hunties. See, I'd enjoy it much more if it was Drag Race themed. The Beast will start in a location and then sneakily move hidden movement style to another location. But while the hunters try to figure out where the Beast is, the Beast will sort of be popping up these different summons, and that will give information about where the Beast is, or the Beast will appear whenever the Beast needs to attack something. And almost every space on the board has something to attack. So I found with Beast, you're not going to get as much hidden movement as you may want, the deduction aspect, and it's more about the draft of the cards and using those abilities at the beginning of the round, which is important to know if you're looking for like a hidden movement game. I wouldn't say this is super emphasized on the hidden movement. Blitz Bowl is a re-implementation of Blood Bowl. So Blood Bowl and Blitz Bowl are a fantasy football style game where you take your football team and you smash it against each other and you try to murder each other in the process. Sounds very fun. But if you don't like losing your players to bad dice every game, then it's also not the game for you. Because it can be so swingy, you have to enjoy losing, because you're probably going to lose all your key players to a bad tackle. Not all of us can be Saquon Barkley, okay? And so this one was a very close vote. It came down actually to a tie between the two, but there was more enthusiasm towards Blitz Bowl, and it is Blitz Bowl that moves forward into the second round, which at the time I was bummed about because I was very excited to play Beast, and now I'm not bummed about it at all because I, again, thought it was just fine. Blitz Bowl sounds fun. Blood Bowl is the preferred version of the two, but Blood Bowl was already in a previous deathmatch, so I tried to shake it up and see what the differences are with Blitz Bowl. There are minute differences. The room sort of felt that Blitz Bowl is less good than Blood Bowl, but that's pretty much all I got for you. So Blitz Bowl moves on. Next up, we have Project Elite taking on Funfair. And this is an interesting one. Project Elite is a real-time strategy game. You're speedily rolling dice as you're getting invaded by a bunch of monsters, and you have to keep all the monsters at bay. Checking those dice in real time and having that real-time element is the thing that makes it fun. And also the thing that would make it fun to lose at is you have that chaos of, oh no, oh shoot, which I think is interesting. And then Funfair was nominated over Unfair. I prefer Unfair because there's more decks, more variability, a lot of expansions. I love Unfair, but I understand Funfair being in this bracket because Unfair is sometimes not fun to lose at when people target you, destroy your blueprint, or the one key thing that you needed for your blueprint, and it ends up being like a 40-point swing, right? That can sometimes feel bad. With Funfair, there's none of that. You just get the joy of building your theme park, smashing the decks together with the same awesome gameplay and tableau building of Unfair, but without any of the potential for being attacked. Again, in Unfair, you don't really have to worry about being attacked. If they attack you, it's generally better to do the good thing for themselves rather than attack you, but I like that there is the possibility and there's that threat. I imagine Project Elite is going to win here, but it's close. Actually, it's really close. It is one vote in the difference between these two games, which is surprising to me. I really thought Project Elite would have it, but I like that there's a lot of love for Funfair. It's not unfair, though, so I'm okay with it being eliminated from the competition, and it's Project Elite that moves forward in a 16-15 vote. Next up, we've got Mage Knight taking on Pandemic Rising Tide. Again, we're seeing a lot of co-ops in this bracket because they have to be fun to lose because you're playing it cooperatively. I mean, I guess they don't have to be fun to lose. Like, cooperative games don't have to inherently be fun to lose. They can just feel really bad if the game is broken and is doing, like, making you do the same actions over and over again. In Mage Knight, you don't have to ever worry about doing the same actions over and over again. This has been nominated numerous times as the best solo game of all time, and I think it has to do with the robust nature of this game. You're going to have a heap full of cards, the amount of stuff that you can do, exploring the land, developing your deck of cards, setting forth, destroying baddies that are on the map. It's a big old sandbox of fun that you can engage with, and people love Mage Knight a lot. Now, Pandemic Rising Tide is, again, the pandemic system, but this one has Cthulhu. Oh no, that's a different one. That's Pandemic Cthulhu, probably. Pandemic Rising Tide, you have to construct 4 modern hydraulic structures in strategic locations that will help you defend the country from being reclaimed by the ocean. So it's not a disease that's ravaging the land, it's just the ocean. Why don't you ever answer me, ocean? This is the ocean's answer. This is what it is. And so it's pandemic, but with that twist, right? Needing to lock down the different sections of the ocean. There was a decent amount of love for both. We had a contingent of people in the Discord saying, get rid of both of them. We love winning at them and not losing. We want something else in here. And they gnashed their teeth and they made a big stink and they just shouted and screamed. And you know what happened? Nothing, because Mage Knight moves forward in a 13-8 vote. I'm very excited to play Mage Knight. I gave my copy to Zach so that he could learn it and he could eventually teach it to me. And I can't wait for that to happen. Thanks, Zach. Moving along, this is a good one. This is one I'm excited about, and I think one of these could go pretty far. We've got the Pursuit of Happiness taking on Blood on the Clocktower. Wow, which is 108. That's wild. The Pursuit of Happiness is if life was actually a good game. Like the game of life, rather, was actually a good game. Or life in general, if it wasn't just a horrid slog towards unending torment and despair. You're going to use your workers to take on projects, use your time effectively, and hopefully find the most happiness. And if you are the happiest person, well, you win. That sounds like it would be awful to lose at. That sounds like it would be no fun to lose at, because it would send you into a tailspin of misery. Why would you want to lose at a fictional game of life? Why would you want to lose by not being happy? Why would you want to end your night saying, well, I guess total happiness is completely outside of my grasp. I'm very happy with the time I spent on this. Oh, wait, I'm not. The evidence is right there. It's just ridiculous. I say no. I say nay, nay. However, social deduction games I find are very good to lose at because it is about the social, right? If you're engaging in this game, the point of it is the social. The point of it is the potential trickery. And in Blood on the Clocktower, it is objectively better than Werewolf because you stick around even after you're dead. Blood on the Clocktower essentially eliminates player elimination and gives everybody a random roll. Now, what it doesn't do well and why it can feel no fun to lose at is if the storyteller sucks and just wants to have fun on their own at the expense of confusing everybody else. Because the storyteller is there to give somebody a roll, but there are some roles where they can twist the narrative as they play the game. So you might have a role where you could see something or you might not. And it's up to the storyteller to decide if your role works or if it doesn't. And that can be absolutely maddening if the storyteller isn't doing this with the best interest of the people at heart. So actually, both of these, I think, deserve to be ejected from the competition. If there was ever a burn it all movement, I think it should happen right here. But that's certainly not to be. I expect Blood on the Clocktower to win here. And it certainly does with a 20-11 vote. The Flames get 7 votes to burn both of them, and Twilight Imperium gets a measly 5 votes. People are trying to write in Twilight Imperium, and let me tell you, those people are the biggest losers. Because it ain't happening. It's not gonna happen. They're just sad that Twilight Imperium was eliminated from the previous competition. Then they couldn't rig the votes to bring it back. So they're trying to bring it back now. It's not going to happen. But we'll keep you updated on the Twilight Imperium failings. Anyway, it's a Pursuit of Happiness that falls, and it's Blood on the Clocktower that moves forward into the next round. Next up, we have Menara taking on Thunder Road Vendetta. And this is actually a pretty big grudge match. Menara is Jenga. There you go. Now you know how to play. You're stacking all this stuff up, and you're trying to make it taller and taller. It's Jenga. Who cares who wins? Do you ever remember a dexterity game, the winner of a dexterity game? I do. I think about it every night. But if you're not me, probably not. Who knocked down that last tower? It was Linda. Okay, well, who knocked it down the time before we played? Well, that one was Bert. Okay, well, maybe I'm not proving my point here. Then it was Carl, Marl, Charles. I play with a lot of people. Charles, Marl, and Carl. They're triplets. Yeah, they're triplets. They're from out of town. They're from Sweden, okay? They were visiting. Don't even get me started about Barl. Thunder Road Vendetta is one that I expect to be moving forward pretty heavily in a lot of situations. People like Thunder Road Vendetta not because you win. In fact, whenever you play Thunder Road Vendetta, it's all just random. It's chaos. You're pushing your little cars forward and you might slip on an oil slick, or you might jump off a ramp, or you might explode into a ball of glory, or a helicopter might fly in and shoot your little butt, okay? Who knows what's going to happen in Thunder Road Vendetta? What you know will happen is a big old smash fest of cars, and you're not there for the race. You're there to see the destruction. I think Thunder Road Vendetta is probably going to move forward in this one, and it does absolutely. Menara does grab some extra votes, but it's Thunder Road Vendetta that moves forward in a 20.5 to 10.5 vote. People were undecided. Next up, we've got Escape, the Curse of the Temple, taking on Ghost Stories. Again, another co-op, actually a couple co-op games, which I just love the description of this. Escape, the Curse of the Temple is a cooperative game in which players must escape, yes, from a temple, yes, which is cursed, yes, before the temple collapses and kills one or more explorers, thereby causing everybody to lose. You're going to start out with some of the temple explored. You're going to have to go into other parts of the temple to explore it. You're constantly, again, with a lot of these real-time games, you're going to be rolling dice, chucking these dice, and you have 5 minutes to get out. Sometimes you might get locked in a spot and somebody has to roll a certain dice to let you keep moving forward. And so you're scrambling around, trying to collect as many gems as you can and not get smushed on the way out. It's fun. Ghost Stories is another one of those cooperative games that's a punishing co-op game. You are monks that are defending your monkdom, and all these sectors around might be filled with ghosts. Ooh. It's a game where you struggle fruitlessly against the unending horde, but when you win, it feels real good because you're probably going to lose depending upon how the deck has been shuffled. I really don't mind games that do that. I love struggling against despair. It's the only way that I can stay happy nowadays. You know, I love the unending torment of tormented souls, really, just pushing up against my windows as the madness attempts to sink in. So of course I'm going to like Ghost Stories, right? It is surprising to me that Escape isn't the one to win this match. It is Ghost Stories that moves forward. I really like Ghost Stories, so that's fine. But I was expecting the frenetic pace of Escape to be up here. But I guess people vibe with Ghost Stories because Ghost Stories moves forward in a 17 to 10 vote, with Twilight Imperium getting 2 measly little votes. Next up, we have Robot Quest Arena taking on Canvas. This is also one that I'm excited about, not because of Robot Quest Arena, although I can see the benefit of having this in the game. You're little robots, and you are battle-botting each other. You're going to be in a battle-bot dome of misery and pain, and you're going to be murdering each other. But if you get murdered, you just get to be resummoned, and you get to murder each other again, over and over, as you put these poor autonomous drones into the worst hell of their lives. Really, the torture and torment for your own laughter and amusement, you miserable, miserable creatures. Look at these bots. They didn't do anything to you. In fact, they used to be so happy, and now you've forced them into a life of pain and dogfighting. Congratulations, you're the villain of this story. It's taking on Canvas, where now you're the artist of this story. Welcome to my tribe. Ooh! Canvas is a very simple game. You are drafting cards from a market, or you're grabbing cards from a market, I don't know, that you will use to create your perfect masterwork. And the masterwork you'll get scored on based around symbols and not based around the art whatsoever. However, my favorite part about losing in Canvas is because you are left with these beautiful pieces of art at the end that you've created yourself, just like this. Oh wow, they recreated the cover. That's fun. Cool. My favorite and the house rule that you need to implement with Canvas is that at the end of the game, you vote on who has the best picture, so that the art actually matters, and you give them a couple extra points for the best picture for each one. And whoever can talk about it in the best way. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. Like, the gameplay isn't robust. It's not. It's a fun diversion to do. The gimmick I find is interesting and gets people excited. And then I love having a display of the art at the end. I think that's really fun. And otherwise, it's a simple set collection style game. But adding in the art element makes it, for me, something to talk about. To talk about this, the vast complexity. As we, as a society are constantly spewing pollution in these smokestacks, but what if we were really on the bottom of the ocean, you know? What if we were being left behind by the animals? And that's exactly what's happening. As animals evolve, we regress, and that's what this painting means. That's what this painting says. It's about the regression of the human race, and it's about the attention to detail and the beauty that nature can provide if only you and I can look. You know, it's that sort of stuff that I think is pretty fun. This one, Pride. So that's why Canvas is honestly my pick to get to the finals as well from this side of the bracket. And it will beat Robot Quest Arena, thank goodness. It's a very close, it's 16 to 15 between the two, but it's Canvas that does move forward. Twilight Imperium, again, gets 2 measly votes. Next up, we've got Life of the Amazonia taking on Star Wars Rebellion. This one's an interesting one. Life of the Amazonia is what I refer to as Quackscadia, because it's a mixture of Quacks of Quedlinburg and Cascadia. Thank you, that's a name that I came up with myself. Nobody helped me with that. I came up with it, and I won't let anybody tell you different. The Life of the Amazonia is a robust bag builder. You are laying these tiles down. You're going to want to put animals in certain spots that they like to be, and over the course of the game, you are going to be pulling out tokens from your bag, which will let you purchase new things or upgrade your bag or purchase new animals. There's 4 different economies in here, and they are all fun to pursue. The act of building the bag and seeing this landscape and environment flourish before your eyes is really lovely. And plus, the meeples are just fun. Look at them. Look at them. They're so cute. Yeah, it's a great game. Quite enjoyed playing it. I just played that recently. Star Wars Rebellion is an interesting one, and I don't know how I feel about it. I quite like the game. I played this with Zach, and it was very, very enjoyable. The Empire, it's a big game of hide and go seek. The Empire is trying to find the Rebel base. The Rebel base is on one of these planets, and the Rebels have to hide until they achieve their master plans. The Empire finds you and wipes you out. The Empire wins. And so I'm interested about this one because there's nothing that necessarily makes it better to lose than it is to win at this game. Whether I lose or whether I win, I'm just enjoying it because it's a good game, right? And so it's not specific to losing, where you have, it is the best game to lose at. I go, yeah, I lost because it was fun, but I won and it was fun. It doesn't really change my feeling of it. It is one where I will still remember if I won or lost. I think the best games are the ones where you forget if you won or lost because you had a great time in the process. I think that's a nicer way of thinking about it. But I can understand that this produces a nice, memorable story as you search through the galaxy. I remember really enjoying hiding from Zach and having him not know which planet I was on. That was delightful. And I think I would have enjoyed that if I had lost as well and remembered that. So maybe I can see the value of it. I think the satisfaction of building the engine in Life of the Amazonia is what I would vote for over Star Wars Rebellion here, just because the flow of the game really is satisfying, and I think bag building games give that quite a great deal, but it's not to be. It's Star Wars Rebellion that moves forward in an 18.5 to 11.5 vote. Next up, we have Rolling Heights versus Sheriff of Nottingham. I think this is a great bracket because every time I see 2 games facing off each other, I go, yeah, both of those are fun to lose at. Now, I've never played Rolling Heights, but the whole conceit of Rolling Heights is that you take your meeples and you chuck them. And if they land on their head or if they land on their feet, they get to do something different. All the while, you're still expanding your city as well. And so you get the fun, unique nature of chucking dice that are actually people and rolling those people around and then building up your skyscrapers in your city. I think that sounds like a hoot, and I don't care how I do. Similarly, I don't care if I bluff or if I don't in Sheriff of Nottingham. We're using the 1st edition Sheriff of Nottingham because the 2nd edition is just absolutely atrocious. And if we want to talk about the biggest losers, it's whoever decided on that art direction. Sheriff of Nottingham is very simple. I'm passing you a bag and I'm telling you, hey, I have 3 apples in there. And then you have to decide if I'm lying. I can bribe you, I cannot. I can pretend to bribe you. It is just a bluffing game, but the aspect of pulling the wool over someone's eyes, or in turn having those mini wins of figuring out who was lying and who wasn't, is always fun. This game generally ends up being a hit when I play it with new gamers. It was so much of a hit in the Christmas times when I was doing a show in Morrisburg, Ontario. We were doing Miracle on 34th Street, that I had to buy a copy. I had to buy a new copy of Sheriff of Nottingham so I could leave it there because everybody enjoyed it so much. Shout out to the guy who I bought it from in Ottawa who knew me. Hey, I hope your name was Eric. If it's not, it is now. Well, I was going to go the other way with it and be nice. Nope, that's not the energy of this video. So yeah, between Rolling Heights and Sheriff of Nottingham, I'm really rooting for Sheriff of Nottingham here. I think Sheriff of Nottingham is a perfect fit for this bracket. However, people in the Discord were also saying that if you are a combination of having a terrible lie detector and an obvious liar, it can make for a very depressing game. It is true, if you don't like bluffing games, then you won't like it. I mean, if you don't like worker placement games, then you won't like a worker placement game either. But I think that convinced a lot of people, and people didn't find that Rolling Heights was that good to lose at either. So instead of my joy over these two picks, both of them actually get burnt and are going to be replaced by another game. What that game will be, I don't know. I think we'll figure it out when we get to it. It certainly won't be Twilight Imperium, which got 2 votes. But the Burn It All movement beats Sheriff of Nottingham just narrowly in a 13-12 vote. Next up, we've got another good one, Stationfall versus Heroes of Barcadia. Now, depending upon how you feel about drinking games, perhaps Heroes of Barcadia is a front runner to win this entire competition. The game that is the most fun to lose at is presumably one where you get drunk and don't remember it if you have a penchant for drinking. We have a penchant for board gaming, generally, and less on the drinking side. Stationfall is a game that I am very excited to play at a certain point in time. It's one of those games where you have a secret character, and there's so many different characters around that are roaming the ship. And you can move a lot of these characters, but you all have different objectives as well for your character. And some of the stories that people have told are just very funny. Someone was a CEO and wanted to blow up the station and leave alive, or leave in an escape pod. I think that was it. Leave in an escape pod, and nobody else could be in the escape pod. And so they were just trying to like push people out of the escape pods so that they could leave in the comfort of their own escape pod. I think Stationfall is one of those games which has been put forward as filled with story. You have an astro chimp, you have a billionaire, you have a botanist, you have a boarder, you have, oh, I guess we can probably keep going, it'll tell us things. A daredevil, a digital assistant, a doctor, an engineer, an exile, an inspector, a cyborg, all these different people on the ship, all with varying abilities and goals. There's no way, somebody could make a case for Heroes of Barcadia, but there is no way in which it's going to move forward against Stationfall, and Stationfall moves forward in a 21-9 vote. Next up, we have Cubtios versus Quacks, or the artist formerly known as Quacks of Quedlinburg. Cubtios is a big old racing game where you roll dice and you move your little cube, and with those dice, you can buy more dice so that you can roll more and you can move the little cube more. Or you can, I don't know, those are the things. You can buy more dice or you can move your cube. That's it. It's a big old race. First person across the finish line wins. Chuck your dice, build it up. Again, in that same engine building aspect, I think that's always very fun regardless of who wins. And in that same feeling, the same engine building aspect can be applied to Quacks. This is the new rebranding. I don't know why it bothers me so much that it's no longer Quacks of Quedlinburg. It really does. It's really hard to get used to. Quacks just doesn't seem to capture the chaos of it as much as I want it to. But Quacks is another one of these where it's really fun regardless of what happens. I bought this recently for my buddy Pat. We were going to go to the Boardroom Game Cafe. We're going to play some games. When I was in Nova Scotia recently, myself, him, and my friend Ray, we were going to go do this. And then it was full. It was full up, but he was looking at Quacks of Quedlinburg, and I wanted to see what the deluxe what the new version added. And there's now a Quacks regular and a Quacks deluxe, which is clutch because beforehand you always had to get these from BGG. You had to get the deluxe tokens from BGG, and now if you get the deluxe edition, it's only like $20 more, if that. You get the chunky tokens, which is so important, so useful, and absolutely one of the only games I will recommend going deluxe for. But anyway, it was his birthday, so I bought him that, and we went back to his house, and we played it, and then we played it again, you know? And it didn't matter who won. Didn't matter. I'm not going to remember who won. It's not like I lost twice, okay? It's not like I had the worst score out of the three of us both times, all right? Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, okay? No one cares. Nobody cares. It's fine. No one cares. Nobody cares. We don't know who was last. We don't know. We forgot. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. And we had a good time, all right? regardless of what happened. If something might have happened or might not have happened, I don't know. Nobody knows. Anyway, Quacks is great. That's my point. It's very fun. It's gotta beat Cubtios here, right? And it certainly does. It moves forward in a 22-8 vote. Who cares about the race? Quacks of Quedlinburg's gonna blow you away. Next up, oh baby, we have Hand-to-Hand Wombat versus Clank. Hand-to-Hand Wombat should win this outright. Hand-to-Hand Wombat should win the entire game, the entire deathmatch. Hand-to-Hand Wombat is so funny. It's so stupid, but people got put off because I talked about hygiene, okay? And I know that maybe that took a hit to it. You're going to have these towers. They're going to be in the box, and you have to assemble the towers in the box, but everybody has a blindfold on, all right? And let me tell you, if there's one sort of game where everyone walks away a winner, it's anything involving a furry blindfold, a fuzzy blindfold, whatever it is, because it's a wombat, right? That's why the deluxe was fuzzy. That's why. That's the reason. I brought my own from home. But in it, you're just fumbling around in the dark like this, just in case you didn't know. You're fumbling. You're trying to put the towers together in time, but there's one of you who also has their eyes closed who's just taking the tower apart. And if you feel somebody just taking the tower apart and isn't, it's like a social deduction game, but it has a dexterity element to it. It's so funny, and it should win. It's up against, who cares, Clank. I mean, Clank is very good. Clank's super fun. The idea of Clank being fun to lose is that you can lose in a blaze of glory. I think the Hunger is more fun to lose than Clank because it is more boom or bust. I think anything that has a boom or bust element to it is always very fun. And so the idea that you can get destroyed by the dragon, I think, is what people enjoy. The memorable aspect of losing this game. But yeah, even in the comments, people are like, I didn't like that bit in Chris's video where he talked about people's hygiene playing Hand-to-Hand Wombat. It gives me the ick. Well, but Hand-to-Hand Wombat is great. Even if you're out of the game, it is so much fun to see people mess up both intentionally and unintentionally and accusing each other blindly while building towers because the clock is on. It's definitely both a team building and a friendship breaking game. It's very funny, and I'm so angry to announce that Clank is the one that moves forward in a 19-16 vote. It's just absurd to me. The voting process can never be trusted. You heard it here first. All voting is rigged. That's what I'm saying. And it's Clank that moves forward. Hand-to-Hand Wombat falls. Just horrid. Just so sad. Next up, who cares? It's not Hand-to-Hand Wombat. It's CO2, Second Chance, taking on Wildlands. Now, this is an exciting one for me because I don't really know a lot about either of these games. I was excited to see them put forth. This is a Vital Lacerda game who is known for his chunky mechanisms and his higher complexity games. You want to do the least damage to the planet, essentially, which wouldn't it be great if corporations had this as a mandate? They certainly don't. But with Vital Lacerda, they do. It's a semi-co-op game because you can ruin the entire Earth and everybody loses. Or you can make lots of money. Hey, let's do that. No, that's not a fun thing to lose at. But yeah, another cooperative game takes the scene. It's also up against Wildlands, which had a huge push and seems really fun. It's a quick little skirmishy area control game. You're going to be dealt out these cards, which will have the numbers on them, I think. And then you'll get 5 of them, and that's where your players start. And then you have to run around the map and collect crystals and kill each other. We had a couple big fans of Wildlands in the Discord saying, Wildlands is my favorite to lose because it feels epic, even though it only takes an hour. I've lost my characters one by one, tragically or heroically, and I've gotten attached to the last one. Then if he or she succumbs just out of reach of the last crystal or under a pile of minions, I'm just happy with the story that came out of the game. And it's that idea that it's a quick area control game that, or skirmishy game, I guess, not really area control, that takes place in an hour, designed by Martin Wallace, who designed Brass. And it is that passionate plea that sends Wildland forward into the next round in a very dominant 16-4 vote, with the Flames getting 8 votes, and Twilight Imperium again getting 0 votes. And finally, we have the last round of the 32, and then we're going to get really into it, just blazing through the results. I've talked exactly the same as I've always talked, but I can't change it now. We've got Wink, which is just very funny. It's been re-implemented by Wink Nest of Spies, taking on Bounce Off. Now, we're going to get to Wink in a second, but I do want to talk about Bounce Off, Because here's the thing. When we're playing a game, and it doesn't matter if we win or lose. In fact, it's the most fun to lose at is when we're involved in the experience, right? When a game is able to take us away from our worldly problems and give us a perfect world, give us a slight glimpse into a perfect world, into how we wish the world could be. And I can't tell you how many nights in a row and days, just continuously, I have been playing Bounce Off. It had to have been at least a month just of this one continuous bounce off game. And let me tell you, we don't know who won, we don't know who lost, but we remember, okay? We found true glory. We found true perfection as we bounced those balls. Dum, 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 dum. Pattern after pattern. It's just in the most glorious euphoria that I've ever experienced. I'd never known what meditation was until I found this bounce off experience, right? And when there's a game that can get you into the zone of perfection, the zone of being in touch with yourself as a human on a human level, how could we not honor that? There are no losers. There are no winners. There is only bounce, right? We can just see what people are saying about it. Like Claypole, who says, fun to lose down the back of a fridge so it can no longer be played. I know you just changed your review. Same with you, Wilt. Final, turns out this ended up in a donation box and went back to the thrift store it came from. Now somebody else can discover and enjoy a lower stakes but more frustrating beer pong. No, we need to be more like Melanie, who said £1. That's all it takes is one single pound. Look, we have 17 people who know what the correct score for bounce off is, all right? See, Vyashu's loving it. Vyashu, it just keeps going up. Started at 7.5 and now it's an 8.5. Vyashu, I'm telling you, you're going to get there. I feel like you might be getting to a 9 on the next video. We never know. I'm happy to see these new ratings in April. I expect new ratings in May as well. From all of you who haven't yet rated Bounce Off, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know. You're on the computer right now. I don't know if Big Squish Ball has gotten to you, okay? And they're upset that Bounce Off has just the perfect plastic to bounce ratio. But I want you to go and rate it honestly, like Vyashu, and not dishonestly, like Claypole and Wilt. I almost didn't finish saying your name. I was like, Wilt. Unfortunately, I have heard from the commissioner, the deathmatch commissioners, that have told me that because it feels like you win when you lose, it's created a sort of paradox where it can't be the best to lose at because nobody ever loses when they play Bounce Off. And so unfortunately, it's been injected from the competition and it's being replaced by something that was recommended in the Patreon recommendations, and that is Mountains of Madness. So let's go to Wink for a second. I think you can imagine what it is. You're winking at each other. You pick a card that you don't have, and then you have to look around to see who winks at you. But everybody else is trying not to be caught winking at you while it happens. I think Shipyard Spies is objectively better and probably should have been in the competition, but Wink is a good, take on that. And if you want a little winky game, as it's been re-implemented as Wink a Nest of Spies, well, you can. Seems fun enough. Again, it doesn't matter what happens. What matters is the tension that's going around as you look around. And so Mountains of Madness seems fun. You're trying to escape the mountain and not go mad. There's some real-time elements to it. And this is what people were saying about it. Mountains of Madness is a cooperative game of communication constraints. The gameplay itself is very simple. The players simply need to reach point totals from cards in specific suits. But that's all thrown out the window when one player is singing everything they say, another has to turn away from the table to speak, etc. Every madness puts a silly constraint on communication, which often results in the entire table laughing so hard that they lose a round. I think we've made it off the mountain with every play, but it's rare that we got a good ending. It's a game where you try to win, but you're having a blast even when you're not winning. It does require the players to be willing to do silly things. It makes a fool of yourself. If making a fool of yourself isn't fun for you, then it's probably less fun. That sounds great. That sounds like it's absolutely deserving to be in this bracket. I think that was a lovely appeal and won the voters' feelings, and it is Mountains of Madness that moves forward in a 16-4 vote, with Twilight Imperium tying Wink. What does that say about Twilight Imperium? All right, we're back to the round of 16. There's only one more game to introduce, and then we can really get rolling. We have Destinies taking on Terra. Destinies for 1 to 3 players. I thought it was for more, but it's apparently just for 1 to 3 players, where it is from Lucky Duck, so that means it's a competitive. Oh, it's competitive, but that means it's a story-driven game based around an app as well. Each player takes on the role of a hero trying to fulfill their destiny as you're going to go through a map, exploring locations, interacting with people, and trying to get the better destiny than somebody else. Your destiny is to be a hero. Their destiny is to sit in the mud. There was not necessarily a big push for Terra, but there was a push against Destinies, being that if you lose, you have to sort of reset everything and try again. Losing in a story-based game is, I think, objectively not fun. Although somebody countered that by saying it's definitely a multiplayer experience, I can see how playing it solo wouldn't be fun to lose, because again, then you do have to reset it. But in a multiplayer experience, you do get to experience the different pathways that people go down. But it's not to be. It's Terra that moves forward in a 15 to 8 vote, with Twilight Imperium getting a 5 measly vote. And the Burn It All movement getting more, once again. Okay, now we can really get rolling, and we've got Blitz Bowl taking on Project Elite. As I click back between these two images that I stopped on, you wouldn't know which is which, but one is on a football field, and the other is in a spaceship. So that's the difference. I think the enthusiasm for Blitz Bowl waned because people preferred Blood Bowl, and it is Project Elite with its real-time elements of fighting off the wave and wave of monsters that moves forward into the next round in an 18 to 11 vote. Next up, we've got Mage Knight taking on Blood on the Clocktower. This is a tricky one. I don't know which way this is going to go. I think Blood on the Clocktower is going to have an easy road to the finals, maybe, depending upon what it faces. Mage Knight is so robust and people love it a lot, but the social deduction aspect, again, I think really suits this theme as having a memorable story, and what you remember is the story and not necessarily who won or who lost. I guess you could say the same thing for Mage Knight as well as they go through the journey, but I think Blood on Clocktower is going to handily take it here, although I'm looking back now. It looks like Mage Knight actually has it. What happened when the vote was called? No, when the vote was called, Blood on the Clocktower just edges out Mage Knight, moves on in a 17 to 16 vote. As I look back now, it would have been Mage Knight moving forward in a 17 to 16 vote. So somebody must have changed their vote after the fact, but it's not enough. It is Blood on the Clocktower that is the one that moves forward, and Mage Knight is eliminated from the competition. Next up, we have Thunder Road Vendetta taking on Ghost Stories. I was surprised about the love for Ghost Stories, but Thunder Road Vendetta, again, I think should just walk to the finish line or race violently and explode in a blaze of glory. And so it's not even close. It's 20 to 10 votes for Thunder Road. Ghost Stories can't measure up, but it did get out of that first round. So that's a win for Ghost Stories. But Thunder Road Vendetta, people love the chaos of it, and they don't care if they win or if they lose, because it's so random, you never know what's going to happen until it happens. Next up, we have Canvas taking on Star Wars Rebellion. I'm pushing for Canvas here. I really think Canvas embodies this theme in an incredible way, because it doesn't matter to me who wins or loses, because the gameplay is so basic, right? Here is Star Wars Rebellion. I understand that it's a good story that happens, but there's nothing specifically exciting about losing versus winning, right? There's something exciting about playing the game. It's just a great game. I don't know. Canvas gives me that feeling that I enter it looking forward. Here's the key. I enter into Canvas looking forward to not the result, but the showcase of the paintings at the end. Looking forward to participating in the mechanics. And I would be fine if we didn't even score it at the end. If people were like, okay, that's done, we didn't even score. And I think that's the mark that I'm looking for. If you don't even have points. So in Star Wars Rebellion, I want to know who wins and I want to know who loses. In Canvas, I don't really care. But people don't feel the same way as me. Oh, maybe. Oh, that's actually pretty close. Dang, but it was very close. It was 15 to 14 for Star Wars Rebellion, and Canvas is eliminated from the competition. Next up, we have Stationfall taking on Cockroach Poker. Yeah, Cockroach Poker is the burn replacement for Sheriff of Nottingham and Rolling Realms. Cockroach Poker is very simple. You pass somebody a card. You say, this is a rat, this is a scorpion, this is a whatever. And they have to decide if you're lying or if you're telling the truth. Again, that's standard sheriff bluffing style. But they can also pick up the card, look at it, and pass it to somebody else and say, this is a fly. It doesn't have to be whatever the previous person said, and then it becomes a showdown between those two people. Only one person loses this game. It is the person to get 4 of a kind in front of them will lose the game. It's a great, quick little bluffing game. I don't think it's going to measure up to Stationfall whatsoever. In Stationfall, you can knock out characters and drag them and throw them into space. I mean, come on. Let's be real. It's Stationfall that moves forward in a 15-8 vote, with Twilight Imperium getting 3 votes. Next up, we have the artist formerly known as Quacks of Quedlinburg taking on Clank. Both push your luck games in a way. Quacks of Quedlinburg a little bit more push your luck and is more deserving of the luck pushing and of the win moving forward. People were really trying to burn both of these games, which is absurd because both of these games are very fun to lose at. So I hope the people enjoyed flailing against the void and enjoyed their losing, because it is Quacks of Quedlinburg that moves forward in a very close 14.33 to 14 vote. Yeah, it got that 0.33 somehow. I don't know. There's some random rules that are happening in the Discord. I'm not going to explain it to you. It wouldn't make sense to you anyway. Just know that the right game moved forward, and Twilight Imperium got 1.33 votes. And then finally, we have Wildlands taking on Mountains of Madness. I've turned around a corner on both of these games. I think both of them seem quite fun. Mountains of Madness, that idea of having those zany constraints put upon you, I think is always very fun. You have that in dexterity games too, and so it's fun having that in a cooperative game. Wildlands, I think the story element and the struggle also feels fun. I think for me, with the descriptor of the two of them, I would vote for Mountains of Madness over Wildlands just because of that silliness and that zaniness that's going to happen. But it is not to be. Mountains of Madness does fall in the vote, and it is Wildlands that moves forward in a 16-13 vote. 13 again for the Burn It All movement. People are getting wild. They want to see some games burnt. They're rebelling against the system, but the system holds firm. We've reached the final 8. We have Terra taking on Project Elite. I have to assume that Project Elite is going to take it here. I've heard great things about Project Elite, and Terra seems fine, but I haven't really heard that much about it. Project Elite, I remember being pretty high up on somebody's list on the Dice Tower. It's just chucking dice. I think the real-time element of Project Elite feels a lot more fun than the slow descent into the dark, down dark deep of Terra, and it is Project Elite that moves forward in a 13-9 vote. Next up, we have Blood on the Clocktower taking on Thunder Road Vendetta. This one is going to be a slugfest. I feel like this could have been a final matchup, really. Blood on the Clocktower and Thunder Road Vendetta, both being nonsense games where nothing matters. And so I was really expecting a big push, but this was a very lopsided vote between the two of them. It is Thunder Road Vendetta that moves forward in a dominant 19.5 to 7.5 vote. I'm just making up the decimals at this point. And unsurprisingly, Thunder Road Vendetta does move forward. That was my pick of this side of the bracket. My pick of the other side of the bracket is gone now, so we'll see who ends up being its inevitable competitor, but it still has one more match to deal with. We're taking on the next one, which is 2 battles in space. We have Star Wars Rebellion taking on Stationfall. One of these games is more fun to lose, and I think Stationfall for sure. Again, that emphasis on story, that emphasis on zany things happening, that's what makes it fun to lose, right? Like, it's a wild experience. You don't even remember who won. You remember the things that happened on the way. Star Wars Rebellion, I would remember who won, and it would be Darth Vader. Oh no, what a plot twist. It wasn't the Rebellion. It is Stationfall that moves forward in a 20-15 vote, with Twilight Imperium getting 0 votes. And then finally, for the last spot in the semifinals, we have Quacks taking on Wildlands. I fear that it may be curtains for Wildlands because Quacks is just so good. Let's go to the deluxe. This is the box you actually want. If you're getting the new Quacks, this is the box you want. Trust me. And so Quacks I thought was going to be a shoo-in, but there was a lot of passionate fans of Wildlands pushing it forward, saying this is a great game. This is a very fun game to lose. There's a lot of excitement that will happen, and more excitement than just pulling tokens out of a bag. And so with that, it is Wildlands that manages to upset Quacks of Quedlinburg and moves forward in an 18-17 vote. A very close vote between the two, but Quacks is eliminated from the competition, and Wildlands makes the semifinals in this Cinderella story. And so we are here. These are the 4 best games to lose at: Project Elite, Thunder Road Vendetta, Stationfall, and Wildlands. One of these games, and no other games, will be crowned the ultimate game to lose at. Which will it be? Well, between Project Elite and Thunder Road Vendetta, my vote is obviously going to be going towards Thunder Road Vendetta. Not that I'm actually interested in playing it, or losing or winning at it. I think I would be much more inclined to Project Elite, but I think the general sentiment of Thunder Road Vendetta is going to totally topple Project Elite, which it absolutely does, in an 18-5 vote, knocking it out of the park and moving on into that final round against one of these two, Stationfall versus Wildlands. Wildlands has a lot of community support behind it right now, but Stationfall has the zany story and the zany action behind it. Only one of these can move forward, again, in a very close vote. People were throwing down votes for the abacus, which didn't even trigger. It's a secret rule that didn't trigger in this vote. And so the ultimate vote ended up being 12-10 for one of these games, and it is Stationfall that just edges out Wildlands and moves forward into that final match, and so we are here. We are here with two glorious losers, Thunder Road Vendetta and Stationfall. And both of these games have put themselves forward to be the biggest loser, or the best loser, some might say. Both of these games want you to have a great time losing at them, and wanted to get the title of biggest loser. But I think it must have been at that time where some of the community realized that they didn't want these two great games being called the biggest loser, right? The community said, wait a minute, these games are fun to lose at. These are not the best games to lose at. We don't want these games to lose. In fact, we want to give the biggest loser title to another board game. But there was another game, because there was another game that has been losing all bracket. There's another game that, regardless of good sense being spoken to its fans, they won't listen. There's a game which will adamantly close its ears and scream, la la la, I'm having a great time at this, even when there's overwhelming evidence to the contrary. There is one game that claims it is the best to lose at, because that's what happens when you play this game. You lose. You lose your time, you lose your energy, you lose your friends, you lose your sense of being, you lose your sense of belonging, you lose your sense of self, and you lose everything. What did it cost playing this game? Everything. So the votes started to pile in, one after another, another. Pax magnifica bellum gloriosum. With magnificent peace comes magnificent war. And a war was waged, and a war was fought, and people rallied to the cause. And these Thunder Road Vendettas and Stationfalls, they could have banded together and just declared one of these a glorious winner, and very on theme, both of these being very worthy competitors and worthy finalists in the matchup. They could have come together, but you know what they were too busy doing? They were too busy losing. They were too busy losing to the United Losers. The epic experience of being out early in the 8 to 12 hour process and just watching people have fun. The deluded nature that happens when you buy a box of Twilight Imperium 4 that you've already lost. You've already lost your sense of purpose and belonging. You've already lost your good sense and taste. There is only one thing that can come from Twilight Imperium, and it is, in fact, losing. And the only way to get through this miserable existence of ours is to have fun even in the darkest time. Even when the games are stacked against you. Even when the games go out of their way to make sure you don't have a good time. You know what you say? You put on your biggest loser hat and you say, listen, I am here. I am here for a full day. I have committed to playing this game, and god damn it, I'm gonna have myself a jolly good time. And there's only one game that you can do that in. One game where everything is just objectively awful about it, and the only way to have a good time is to make that decision beforehand while not paying attention to any of the mechanics of the game. It is Twilight Imperium 4 that is deemed the biggest loser. The only way to have fun at this game is if you have fun losing everything. The only way to enjoy yourself is by screaming against the void. And it is fitting that Twilight Imperium moves in the final hour to take the fun away from all those rooting for Thunder Road Vendetta and Stationfall, and just deprive everybody of fun, making all of us, including you having watched this video, unfortunately, a loser. I'm still scrolling through the conversation, through the arguments that were happening. Congratulations goes to Thunder Road Vendetta and Stationfall for making it to the finals and I'm sorry that your life and the light in your eyes was snuffed out by the biggest loser of them all, Twilight Imperium 4. Thanks everybody for watching. That's the end. What a depressing event, but don't worry, next month we will have something a little bit lighter. Physically, it's going to be the best travel games. The best games to travel with, that's what we're voting on right now in the Room and Board Patreon. If you want to get in on what were the too many shenanigans for me to be able to squeeze into this one matchup, well, you can sign up for the Room and Board Patreon down below, and you can also see how I intend to punish the usurpers, making them the biggest losers of them all. Or not, I'll always make a video recap because, you know what, I think it's fun, and I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching, my name's Chris George, I don't have a catchphrase, but I am the biggest loser of them all, and I'm happy to be so.